Next up, we have the very strong and virile Larry Zelman. Larry is a pediatrician at Connecticut Children's Medical Center and describes his family as the Brady Bunch, 3 sons, 3 stepdaughters. He and Eliane celebrated their first wedding anniversary last month. Larry is passionate about tennis, biking, and hiking, and camping, as we know. Larry's Jewish hero is Yitzhak Rabin, the 2-time Prime Minister of Israel, ambassador to the US, and recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize for his work on the Oslo Accords. Larry admires the fact that despite his 27-year military career, he was a passionate advocate for peace. Please welcome Larry Zelman.
It was July 2009. I was standing at the bedside of a 3-year-old child in a medically induced coma in a strange ICU, 6 tubes probing this child's body. The child is a brother of a patient of mine who has arthritis, and I'm a childhood arthritis specialist. The day before, I called the family because I was enrolling the older child in an experimental drug trial. I quickly learned that the family was vacationing in San Diego, and the younger child developed a sudden severe headache. He was taken to an urgent care facility, and where he started to lose consciousness. An ambulance brought him to the local children's hospital, and he was diagnosed as having a brain aneurysm. By coincidence, I was flying out to San Diego that very night to visit my brother. The next day, I convinced Barry to drive me over to Rady Children's Hospital. I walked up to the ICU waiting room. The family was amazed to see that I was approaching. And after speaking to the ICU physician there, I was able to provide some additional reassurance and support to the family. I went to that hospital because of the value of service that my father taught me. My father and his older brother left Poland in 1938. He was from the shtetl of Bielsk, and my mother was from the larger village of Drobnin, not far away. My father left behind 2 younger sisters, 2 younger brothers, and both parents. My parents actually knew each other as children. Their fathers conducted business together on market day. My mother was taken to a ghetto and with her extended family, and she was able to escape from the ghetto with 2 friends and false papers. She spent the rest of the year working for a couple of different German families, and one of them even was a Nazi. And the rest of her family, 7 siblings, 2 parents, a dozen or so relatives, were killed in Auschwitz. My father's family perished in Treblinka. My father joined the US Army in 1943 after becoming a United States citizen. He saw action in the European theater and then was assigned to a displaced persons camp in Feldafing near Munich, Germany, as a quartermaster sergeant. He used to tell me 2 stories that he enjoyed telling. One was, and this was, Feldafing was the first all-Jewish DP camp. So he would walk into the barracks in his freshly starched GI uniform and amazingly started speaking Yiddish to the inmates of the DP camp. They were aghast that there was a Jewish GI talking to them. And in the chaos of post-war Germany, my father learned that my mother was still alive in Frankfurt. He borrowed a Jeep and went to get her. The second story he tells is driving a Jeep around the DP camp, one hand on the wheel and one hand holding up a tray of breakfast food that he would deliver to my mother in an apartment that he rented for her. They had a short courtship, they fell in love, and they married on July 4th, 1946. Since he was in charge of supplies, It was a huge wedding, lots of food, lots of liquor. In my father's unpublished memoir, he writes about actually slaughtering a calf to provide meat for the wedding. And he found liquor from Paris and wine from Italy. He invited members, he invited residents from the DP camps, army buddies. It was a huge success, but sadly, not a single family member was there. I learned that sense of wanting to please people from my father. In 2010, I was seeing Willie W. for a second opinion because of his hip pain. He had already seen numerous physicians in Massachusetts and Tennessee and still had pain. He lived for basketball. His father was his AAU basketball coach. He was not able to play basketball as a senior in Northampton, Massachusetts. In fact, one of the doctors told him that he probably would not play basketball again, but I definitely wanted to help him. So as I was seeing him for a second opinion, I went through his records and I saw that there was one blood test that could be consistent with arthritis. And then I'm looking through the MRIs, and one part of it showed a little inflammation. So I told the parents that, this really may represent an odd form of arthritis. I wanted to treat him with a new aggressive medication, and they agreed. And he started on it, and within 3 weeks, he was running up and down the hard court and finished out his high school senior year playing basketball. He even did a 5th postgraduate year at a private school just to get a little bit more basketball under his belt. I remember one day going over to Westminster School in Simsbury to watch him play. He was terrific. He then led Amherst College to a Division III national championship and played professional ball in Israel. I learned the value of service from my father. When he bought his first grocery store in Brooklyn, he learned the customers' names and their shopping habits. He started a home delivery service. So at around the age of 9, I would take the bus up to the store and started delivering groceries throughout the neighborhood. By the time I was 12, he had a larger store, and now he had a bicycle for me with a box out front to deliver groceries. It was just like my father in the Jeep. When I was a teenager, my father was appointed president of his bungalow colony in the Catskills, Monticello, New York. Part of his responsibility was making sure the lawn was mowed, the pool was clean, but the thing he enjoyed the most was organizing the Saturday night parties in the casino. What that meant is that he had to get the finest lox, the sweetest whitefish, the freshest bagels, and of course he would have to arrange for music. So he would typically hire a Russian songstress and a Romanian accordionist, and I still really vividly recall them playing by Mir Bistushane, watching my parents dance around the hall with other Holocaust survivors. And I could imagine what a dance hall in 1930s Eastern Europe must have looked like. I was really moved by that. I still have great memories of that. His devotion to service allowed him to thrive after just missing annihilation in Europe. So I walked back into the San Diego ICU, and I'm looking down at this motionless child. And now I'm thinking of my father in the ICU after his stroke. I'm thinking about my work, my commitment to service, my father's legacy. He would have been proud when I recently received a national award, in fact, the highest professional award from the Arthritis Foundation just a couple of years ago. But my father's commitment to service, his willingness to please people, lives on. Thank you.
Wonderful, Larry. It's really evident that you're an amazing doctor and that the legacy of your father lives on in you. The way you talk about your basketball player with so much pride, it's really great. Your patients are lucky to have you.